In this video, we're going to be doing some parabola practice problems involving equations. So let's start off with our first question. A parabola has its focus at 0, 5 and a directrix at a line y is equal to -5. What is the equation of the parabola? So remember that the definition of the parabola is all points are equidistant from the focus and directrix. So then xy is any point on the parabola so then we know that we have to find the distance from xy to the focus, which is 0, 5. So then if we take the distance using the distance formula, we have x minus 0 squared plus y minus 5 squared, and that's going to equal to the square root of x squared plus y minus 5 squared. Now, remember that the distance from x, y to the directrix y is equal to -5 is the vertical distance. So you can write that as absolute value of y minus -5. Since you know distance has to be positive, that's just going to equal to y plus 5. And from the definition of parabola, we know that these distances must be equal. Now we can eliminate the square root and write this as x squared plus now after this we can expand both sides. Now you can subtract 25. You can also subtract y squared. And you're left with x squared is minus 10y is equal to 10y. So now after this, we just have that x squared is equal to 20y. So therefore, this is our equation. Or you could also solve this as, so we know that can use a second method that's a little bit shorter. So we know that the focus that we were given was 0, 5. And we also know that the directrix was y is equal to -5. And we know that the vertex is halfway between the focus and directrix. So if we know that's true, that means it's at 0, 0. And then we know that the distance from the vertex to the focus that's going to be p is equal to 5. And then we know that we have a vertical parabola, so then we can say for a vertical parabola with a vertex at the origin. So what you can do is say x squared is equal to 4py, and then you plug in your p. So then you have x squared is equal to 4 times 5y, and then that's going to equal to 20y, right? So then that's also going to be a second way to find your equation. A parabola has a vertex at -1, -5, and a focus at -1, -3. Write the equation of the parabola in vertex form. Y is equal to a times x minus h squared plus k. So first, when you have these types of problems, what you want to do is you want to find the orientation of your parabola. So what we know is that both the vertex and our focus, they have the same x coordinate. Which is equal to -1. So that means that the parabola opens vertically. And we know that since the focus is above, because it's going to be like this, so the focus has to be somewhere here, and that's your HK. The focus is above the vertex, so y is going to equal to -3 is greater than y is equal to -5. -3, that means that it opens upward. The second thing we want to do is we want to find the distance from the vertex to the focus. This is equal to p. So we want to find vertex to the focus. Our vertex is -1, -5, and our focus is -1, -3. So we want to find that distance. So that's going to be -3 minus -5, and then that's going to be equal to -3 plus 5, and that's equal to 2. So you wanted to get that distance. That was your -3, and this was your -5. And now that means that that's equal to p. So that's the distance from the vertex to the focus. Now after this, we have to write the vertex form of the parabola that opens upward. So that means we have y is equal to a x minus h squared plus k. HK is our vertex. So what we need is we want the vertex HK, and we also want the vertex HK, and we want our focus HK plus P, and that's because it's vertical. So that means you have to add P to the y coordinate, not the x coordinate. So that means that for this, we have our equation. We have a parabola with the vertex HK, and we have the focus HK plus P. So that means our equation is going to be x minus h squared is equal to 4py minus k. But you need to write it as this. So we can start off with this. But what we don't know is we need to find the value of a. From here, we're missing a, but we have all of our other things. So what we do is we find a. So we start from this. Now we have x minus h squared is equal to 4p y minus k. This is just the same thing as up there. And then we want to solve for y. So then we have x minus h squared divided by 4p. Because what we can do here is we just divide by 4p. We're trying to get, this is our goal, right? So we just divide by 4p by, now over here we have y minus k, and we just add k. Now you just have that y is equal to 1 over 4p x minus h squared plus k. Therefore, we have that a is equal to 1 over 4p, because we can see that it mirrors our equation up here, and everything else is like basically the same. You can like see this like this. So that's how we know that that is a. So now we can identify all of our values. We can identify and plug in the values. So we can clearly see that h is equal to -1, and we already know that k is equal to -5. I meant to say plug in. And we know that p is equal to 2 and a was equal to 1 over 4p. And we know that our p was 2. So that means we have 4 times 2 is equal to 1 over 8. So now we plug in our values and we have in vertex form. We have y is equal to 1 over 8. X minus -1 squared plus -5. So you just have y equals 1 over 8, x plus 1 squared minus 5. Now, this is your answer. Another way you could do this is second method. That might be a little quicker. So we knew that the vertex hk, that was equal to -1, -5, right? And we knew our focus was equal to -1, -3. So what we could have done was we first could have found p. P is equal to -3 minus -5 is equal to 2. And then here you could have just, from finding p, you use the vertex focus form that we used earlier, and then you can just straight and plug it in. So you have x minus h squared is equal to 4p y minus k. And then you substitute x plus 1 squared 4 times 2 y plus 5. And then this is 8 y plus 5. And then you solve for y. Then you have y plus 5 is equal to 1 over 8 x plus 1 squared. And then you have y is equal to 1 over 8 x plus 1 squared minus 5, which is a lot shorter. A parabola has its focus at 1, 0, and its directrix is the line x is equal to -1. What is the equation of this parabola? Okay, so we know that the parabola is the set of all points x, y that are equally distant from the focus and the directrix. So again, let's let x, y be any point on the parabola. So then we can find the distance from x, y. To focus 1, 0. So that means our d is going to equal to x minus 1 squared plus y plus 0 squared, and that's going to equal to square root of x minus 1 squared plus y squared. Now we want the distance from xy to the directrix. X is equal to -1. So that distance is going to equal to the absolute value of x minus -1. And that's just going to equal to x plus 1. So now you can set them equal. So you have that x minus 1 squared plus y squared is equal to the absolute value of x plus 1. And we know that both of these are going to be, I'm going to say the whole thing is non-negative. Therefore, you can square it. So this is going to leave us with this. And if you square it, you can also remove your absolute value because you know it's going to be positive. So you're going to have x minus 1 squared plus y squared is equal to x plus 1 squared. Now if you expand over here, you're going to have x squared minus 2x plus 1 plus y squared. And here you're going to have x squared plus 2x plus 1. So now what you can do is subtract x squared plus 1 from here. And also do that here. And then this means this whole entire expression is just going to simplify to negative 2x plus y squared minus 2 is equal to 2x. Now we have y squared is equal to 4x. So this is our final equation. A second way that you could have done this is that we know that we can find the vertex instead of doing this process. So we have vertex x is going to be halfway between our focus and directrix. So if that's the case, then you can write x is equal to our focus x value is going to be 1, and our directrix x value, our focus x value, that's just 1, and a directrix x value, that's going to be -1. So then you have x is equal to 1 plus -1 divided by 2, so that's equal to 0. So that means that your vertex HK is equal to 0, 0. Because we know they are, or we can write this here, focus and directrix are horizontal in y. Now after this, we find the direction. So we know that the focus is right of vertex. And we also know that the directrix is left. So now to imagine that means that we know that the parabola opens right. So focus So because of that, we can find P. And we know that P is equal to the distance from vertex to focus. So we know P is equal to 1 minus 0, which is 1. So then we know that because we have a right opening parabola, we have y squared is equal to 4px. Then you substitute in your p is equal to negative 1. Or just p is equal to 1. I mean, y squared is equal to 4 times 1x. Y squared is equal to 4x. A parabola has vertex at 3, negative 2, and opens downward. The focus is 3, negative 5. Write the equation of the parabola in the vertex form. Y is equal to a x minus h squared plus k. So how do we get this answer? So we knew that the parabola had a vertex at 3, negative 2, and it opens down. Focus negative 3, negative 5. So first we have to identify the h and k for vertex form. So we have h is equal to 3 and k is equal to negative 2. So now we also need a. So we know that absolute value of p is the distance between vertex and focus. And we know that since parabola opens downward, p is negative. So we know that since both points are vertical, we know that because x is equal to 3, and we also know that p is equal to y focus minus v or y vertex. You can write in p as negative 5 minus negative 2, and that's going to equal to negative 3. So we know that for a parabola of this type, we know that we can write the distance from the vertex to the focus is p is equal to 1 over 4a. So to get 1 over 4a, that's just going to be equal to negative 3. Now we need to get a, right? So to get a, we can manipulate this as like multiply that by 4a, multiply that by 4a, and then we just cancel that out, and then you get 1 is equal to negative 12a, and then you get negative 12 over negative 12. So then you get a is just equal to 1 over negative 12, right? So now we have to substitute these values. So now you have y is equal to, we have a is 1 over negative 12, and we had h is 3 and k is negative 2. So that's how we get negative 1 over 12 x minus 3 squared plus negative 2. Okay. And the second way we could have done this is, again, yes, we know that p is the distance from the vertex to the focus, which is the same way. Instead, you could have used the focus vertex form. using the same p-value that we calculated over here, you could write, x minus h squared is equal to 4p y minus k. So then you can substitute in your known values. So you have x minus 3 is equal to 4 times negative 3y plus 2. So that's going to be x minus 3 squared is equal to negative 12 y plus 2. Now you want to solve for y. So then, if you solve for y, you divide both sides by negative 12. And then you get y plus 2, which is just the right side. We're just writing it on this side, is equal to negative 1 over 12x minus 3 squared. And then we want to subtract that negative 2. Then you literally have the exact same form that we got over there. So it's just the same version, just, manipulated. So what you can do is you can either algebraically manipulate, or in your second strategy is you find h, k, a, and sub. So those are two approaches you could take. A parabola has a vertex at 0, negative 2, and it opens upward. The focus is at 0, 1. Find the equation of the parabola in vertex form. Y is equal to a times x minus h squared plus k. So how do we get this answer? So we knew that the vertex was the vertex, and it opens up, and that's the focus, right? So we know first what we would do in this situation is we had to find the distance from the vertex to the focus. So our vertex 0, negative 2, and our focus 0, 1. So that distance is going to be 1 minus negative 2. That's going to be 3 up. So what's the standard form? That's the standard form. Standard form is ax minus h squared plus k. And here, hk, that's our vertex. So we know that here we have h is equal to 0 and k is equal to negative 2. Well, now we have to find a relation of a. We get a, right? So we know that for a parabola opening up at hk, we know that with our vertex hk, we know that the distance from vertex to focus is 1 over 4a. And we know that here the distance is 3. So you can write 1 over 4a. 1 over 4a is equal to 3. Now you want to solve for a. So that's going to be 4a is equal to 1 over 3. So then you're going to have a is equal to 1 over 12. Now you can just plug in your values, right? So we have a, we have h, and we have k. So then if you plug everything in, you have y equals 1 over 12, x squared minus 2. And that's your answer. Or you could have done this with your standard focus vertex form. So here we still have the same p-value, right? But instead of doing this step, if you did it this way, you could have done it's a vertical parabola, right? So using your standard focus vertex form, you know that x minus h squared is equal to 4p y minus k. So then you substitute in your values, you have x minus, so you had 0 for your h, right? And your k, that was -2, because we used the vertex. Just use vertex. And you have equals to 4 times 3y plus 2, because the double negative, you know, this becomes positive. And then you just solve for y, because remember, like, it's the same equation, but algebraically this is just equal to y, and we want y, you know, y. That's how we did another one, but instead we're just gonna do the, you know, starting from this form. So you have x squared, writing this, you have x squared is equal to 12 y plus 2. Then you have, you want to divide both sides by 12, right? And then you get y plus 2 is equal to 1 over 12x squared, subtracting 2. And yep, after this you get y is equal to 1 over 12x squared minus 2. Exact same answer as our other side. So just to reiterate again, you can either use standard vertex form, or you could have just found the values and plugged them into the vertex form. A parabola has its focus at 6, 1, and its directrix is the line y equals 5. What is the equation of this parabola? Okay, so we know that from the definition of a parabola, it is a set of all points x, y that are the same distance from the focus as they are from the directrix. So the first thing that we can do is we can write the distance from point xy to the focus. So xy and the focus is 6, 1. So we can write x, the distance is x minus 6 squared plus y minus 1 squared. Now we can write the distance from x y to our directrix, y is equal to 5. So this is going to be the vertical distance of absolute value of y minus 5. Now we have to set them equal. And after we set them equal, we have x minus 6 squared plus y minus 1 squared is equal to the absolute value of y minus 5. Now we can square both sides and eliminate the absolute value. So now we have x minus 6 squared plus y minus 1 squared is equal to y minus 5 squared. We can expand both sides and we have x minus 6 squared plus y squared minus 2y plus 1 is equal to y squared minus 10y plus 25. Now we can see that we can subtract y squared from both sides. And we're left with and we can also move all the terms to this side. So then we're going to have x minus 6 squared minus 2y plus 1 plus 10y minus 25 is equal to 0. And this simplifies to x minus 6 squared and y minus 24 is equal to 0. Solving this for y, we have x minus 6 squared. Okay, so we can just, now we get y on the other side. So we have 8, keep y over here, y 24 minus x minus 6 squared And now we can divide everything by 8. Y is going to be equal to 24 1 minus x minus 6 squared over 8. Oh, that's just going to be y is equal to 3 minus 1 over 8 x minus 6 squared. Now, the second way you could do this is we know that we have p is equal to 1 minus 3 equals negative 2. This is the distance from the vertex to the focus. And it's negative because it opens down. So the parabola looks like this. And we can use the standard, instead of this step, we can use the standard focus vertex form. Focus vertex form. X minus h squared equals 4p y minus k. X minus 6 squared is equal to 4 times negative 2 y minus 3. X minus 6 squared is equal to negative 8 y minus 3. We can now solve for y. That negative 8 will cancel out there. But we still have to divide the other side by negative 8. So we have y minus, we can switch the sides. Y minus 3 is equal to negative 1 over 8. X minus 6 squared. And this is our second way of getting the same answer. A parabola has its focus at 3, negative 2, and its directrix is the line y equals negative 6. What is the equation of this parabola? Okay, so again, a parabola is a set of all points x, y that are equidistant from the focus and the directrix. So again, like we've done before, we can first write the distance from a general point, which is x, y, to the focus, which was 3, negative 2 up here. So that's going to be, our d is going to be the root of x minus 3 squared plus y plus 2 squared. Now, what we can do is write the distance from x, y to our directrix, y equals to negative 6. And that is going to be y plus 6, absolute value. So you want to set them equal. These distances are equal according to the definition of the parabola. So we have x minus 3 squared plus y plus 2 squared is equal to y plus 6. Now we can square both sides. That gets rid of our absolute value and our root. Now, that's actually just y plus 6 squared. And we can expand the left. We have x minus 3 squared. Okay, we can actually write this first. Is equal to x squared minus 6x plus 9. And after this, we have y plus 2 squared is equal to y squared plus 4y plus 4. And on the left, we have x squared minus 6x Okay, my bad. All of this is equal to that. And then we have y squared plus 12y plus 36. Now we can minus this. $36. So subtracting, you have 0 on this side. So now over here you have x squared minus 6. X squared minus 6x plus 9 plus 4 plus 4y minus 12y minus 36 is equal to 0. Now you have x squared minus 6x plus 13 minus 8y minus 36 is equal to 0. X squared minus 6x minus 8y minus 23 is equal to 0. Now if you rearrange this to standard form, now what we have is x squared minus 6x minus 8y is equal to 23. Or you could do this, or you could do x squared is equal to x squared minus 6x minus 23 is equal to 8y. And then from here you could just divide both sides by 8. You could divide both sides by 8, and then your 8 would cancel out, and then you would be left with y is equal to 1 over 8 x squared minus 6x minus 23. And then you get the equation of the parabola as this. Now a second method that you could do is that you could use the standard parabola equation, the focus form. So you could use, again, we know that p is equal to -2 minus -4 is equal to 2. That's the distance from the vertex to focus. So now using that, we can use the vertical parabola. So you have a vertical parabola. So when you have a vertical parabola, you have x minus h squared is equal to 4p y minus k. Now substituting your values, you have x minus 3 squared is equal to 4 times 2y plus 4. Now you have x minus 3 squared is equal to 8 times y plus 4. You can solve for y, so you divide both sides by 8. And then that 8 cancels out. Then all you have now is just y plus 4 is equal to 1 over 8 x minus 3 squared. Now you have subtracting 4 from both sides. Then that cancels out. And you have y is equal to 1 over 8 times x minus 3 squared minus 4. And what you can do here is you can expand this. So then when you expand that, you have 1 over 8 x squared minus 6x plus 9 minus 4. And you can also convert the -4 into eighths. So -4 is also equal to -32 over 8, right? So then if you just combine that all together, then you have this y. So then you can combine that in there. So then that's just going to be y is equal to 1 over 8 x squared minus 6x plus 9 minus 32, because you can see it's being divided by 8 and this is being multiplied by 8, so it has the same thing. So basically you can factor out that 1 over 8 and you can put it inside the parentheses, so that's a legal move. So then you have y is equal to 1 over 8 x squared minus 6x minus 23 minus 23, and that is the exact same form that we got earlier, just with a little different algebra moves. A parabola has its focus at -4, 1, and its directrix is the line y is equal to 7. What is the equation of this parabola? Okay, so again, let the focus is -4, 1, and the directrix is y equals 7. Okay, so now what can we do? Well, we remember that the parabola is, again, the set of all points x, y that are equidistant from the focus. Equidistant from focus and directrix. So what we can do is we can write the distance from a point xy to the focus. how do we do this? So that's xy to the focus. Our focus was -4, 1. So our distance is just going to be the distance formula, plugging in those 2 points. So we have our x's, x plus 4, because that was a -4, so it's adding it. And then your y's, you have y minus 1 squared. And then after this, what we can do is we can write the distance from x, y to the directrix. Okay, so what was our directrix again? Our directrix was the line y is equal to 7. So y height is always going to be 7. And the distance from the xy to the line, we want the distance from that. So that's going to be the vertical distance. This is the vertical distance because we want a point. That's going to be absolute value of y minus 7. So now you have these two values. You can set them equal. So if we set them equal, that's just going to look like this. You have x plus 4 squared plus y minus 1 squared is equal to the absolute value of y minus 7. So now you can square, and then that cancels out, and then this cancels out. Okay, now after this you have x plus 4 squared plus y minus 1 squared is equal to y minus 7 squared. So now what you can do is expand. You gotta expand. So expanding, then you have x plus 4, there was y squared. That's gonna be x squared plus 8x plus 16 plus y squared minus 2y plus 1. That's just going to be equal to that side squared is y minus 7, y minus 7. So expand that out, you have y squared minus 14y plus 49. Okay, so now what we can do is we can subtract y squared from both sides. So if we subtract y squared, we see that those both cancel out. And then after this, we can move all the terms to one side. Let's move everything over here. So if we move everything over here, we have x squared plus 8x plus 16 minus 2y plus 1 plus 14y minus 49 is equal to 0. Now you can combine some like terms. So we can combine the y terms, which is going to be -2y. We also see 14y here. And we also, okay, that's it. And then, okay, now we can combine the constants. So we see 16, 1, and -49. So then rewriting this, we have x squared plus 8x plus 12y minus 32 is equal to 0. So this is going to be our final equation, which is the same as what we got up here. Now, another way you could have done this is, instead of doing this, you could have used you could have used a standard focus vertex form. So first, what you could have done was you could have found P. So if you found P, then, the P is vertex to focus. So that is going to be P is equal to 1 minus 4 is equal to -3. And -3, it's -3 because our parabola opens downwards. Parabola opens down because if we have our directrix is y equals 7, has to go down, just make the direction down. And then, okay, after this, what you have is that we know that it's a vertical parabola. So then what we can do is we can write our standard focus vertex form. Standard vertex form. So for vertical parabola, we have x minus h squared is equal to 4p y minus k. So then we can substitute in our values. So we have h is equal to -4, and we also have k is equal to 4, and we have p is equal to -3 from up there. So if we sub those in, then we just have simply x plus 4 squared is equal to 4 times -3 times 1 minus 4. Then you have x plus 4 squared is equal to -12 y minus 4. And if you expand this out, you have x plus 4 squared. So that's going to be multiplying that way. We have x squared plus 8x plus 16. And then on this side, we have -12. Distribute this. That's going to be -12y. And that's going to be positive 48. So then we have this expression. So what we can do is we need to put in standard form. So we move everything to that side. So we just, add 12y. Subtract 48. Add 12y. Subtract 48. Then we see that cancels out. No, all we have is just simply x squared, x squared plus 8x plus 12y minus 32 is equal to 0, and then that is your second method to getting the same answer. A parabola has its focus at -3, -2, and its directrix is the line x is equal to 1. So what is the equation of this parabola? Okay, so again, our focus is -3, -2, and the directrix is the line x is equal to 1. And the definition of the parabola is a set of all points xy points that are equidistant from focus and directrix. Focus and directrix. That's just taking advantage of the definition of what a parabola is. So again, let's let xy be a point on the parabola. Point on our parabola. Okay, so that means that we can write that the distance from xy to our focus, -3, -2, that's just going to be equal to the distance of, using our distance formula, we have our x's first. We have x plus 3 because that was a negative squared, plus y plus 2 because that was a negative squared. And now what we can do is, that's our first step. So now secondly, like we've done before, we can find the distance, or the distance from xy to our directrix, which is x equal to 1. So that distance is going to be equal to x minus 1. So now we know that by the definition of the parabola, these distances are going to be equal because that's xy to the focus, this is xy to the directrix. So then we can set them equal. We can take advantage of this, and now we have this are both equal to d. Now equal to this. Setting this equal, what can we do? Like we've done before, we have squared these sides, then those cancel out, then after this you just have x plus 3 squared plus y plus 2 squared is equal to x minus 1 squared. Now if you expand both sides, on the left, x plus 3 squared, that's going to be equal to x squared plus 6x plus 9. Now y plus 2 squared, well, that's going to just equal to y squared plus 4y plus 4. And that's all going to be equal to x minus 1 squared. So x minus 1 squared, this is going to be equal to x squared minus 2x plus 1. Now we have our like terms. But over here, first we can rewrite this as x squared plus, okay, actually, let's hold on for a second. Well, first let's actually move everything to this side. And that's negative x squared plus 2x minus 1. And then over here, we do the same thing. And then we can cancel this out. So now over here, what we have is x squared plus 6x plus 9 plus y squared plus 4y plus 4 minus x squared plus 2x minus 1 is equal to 0. Now, if we combine like terms, we can see that our stuff, it all cancels basically, and we just have x squared. Well, we have our x squared minus x squared, right? So that's going to be goodbye to this. And then we see we have our 6x and we have our 2x. So then we can add that. That's going to be our 8x. And then we can see here, let's see, we have 9 and we have 4 and we also have negative 1. So that's going to give us 12. So now what can we write? We can write what we have left over. So this is going to be 8x plus y squared plus 12 plus 4y is equal to 0. We can actually that's fine. We'll just leave it like that. So we can rewrite this to be in our standard form. So that's going to be y squared plus 4y plus 8x plus 12 is equal to 0. And this is going to be the equation of the parabola, which has the focus of -3, -2, and the directrix line x is equal to 1, just as our problem states. So we can box our answer, and that's going to be correct. So, well, another way we could have done this is using the other form as well. So what you could have done first is you could have found the vertex. So the vertex, what is the vertex? It is halfway between the focus and your directrix. in the x direction. In the x direction. So that means x vertex is going to just equal to -3 plus 1. And that's going to be divided by 2 is equal to -1. And we also know that the focus and the directrix, they are going to share the same y distance. So that means that we can write that the vertex is going to be equal to -1, -2. -2, that -2, and that -1 is that x, that y distance. That x vertex. Okay, so now after this, what we can do is we can find our direction. So our direction. So we know that our focus is -3, -2. So let's have this as a graph. So we have -3, -2. That's going to be our f. And then what is our directrix? Our directrix is the line x is equal to 1. So this is 1. So let's say this is our directrix. Right? So that means that we know it has to kind of like, wherever the vertex here is, so is that we have our vertex as -1, -2. So that's going to be our vertex. And let me draw this a little better. So we know it's like this, right? So that we know that the focus is left of the vertex. And we know that if it's left of the vertex, that's because the directrix is to the right. Directrix is to the right. So that means it opens left. And when it opens left, that means we know that the p is going to be less than 0. So how do we find p? So we know that, again, p is the distance from vertex to focus, from the vertex to the focus. So that has always been p is equal to -3 minus -1. That's going to equal to -2. So now what we can do is we can take advantage of the standard form for a horizontal parabola. We know it's horizontal because it opens left. Horizontal. So that is going to be, when it's horizontal, remember you have y instead of x because it's going to be just y inside. So you have y on the left side, is what I mean. And then you have 4p x minus h. So whichever one is being multiplied by p, you can kind of remember that one is going to be the one that's going to be the type of parabola that it is. And here we can substitute our values. H is equal to -1. We know k is equal to -2. And we know that p is equal to -2. So subbing in our values, we have y plus 2 squared is equal to 4 times -2x plus 1. So now if we simplify this down, this side stays the same. And we have -4 times -2, -8x plus 1. Now, if we expand y plus 2 squared, we know that's going to be y squared plus 4y plus 4. And we know on the right side, we can multiply that. So we have -8x minus 8. That's -8x. And now that's going to be equal. So we can put this in standard form, which means we just do what we've always done. Add x, add 8, add 8x, add 8. That cancels out. That's just going to be 0. That's going to be y squared plus 4y plus 8x plus 12 is just equal to 0. Plus 12 is equal to 0. So that's going to be the exact same solution that we got earlier. A parabola has a focus at -1/4, -3, and a directrix at x is equal to -15/4. So write the equation in vertex form x minus h squared is equal to 4p y minus k, or y minus k squared is equal to 4p x minus h. So we wrote the form down here. And how do we get this answer? So what we know first is that we are given our focus and we're also given our directrix. And we know that we have to get into standard form. So the first thing that we can try to do is we can get our vertex from this. Our vertex is just going to be hk. And we know the vertex is going to be halfway between the focus and the directrix in our x direction, in our x direction. So we know that we can look at the x values for each of them. So for our focus, our x is going to be -1/4, and our directrix, that's just our x. So what we can do is we know that both the focus and the directrix our focus and directrix, they're gonna have a constant x coordinate. And that's because we know that. So the parabola, it opens left or right. So we know that this x coordinate is of the vertex is the average of the focuses x coordinate and the directrixes x value. So that's basically what we can do is we can take the midpoint, and our midpoint, that's gonna be h, which is also gonna be x vertex. That's just gonna be equal to -1/4 plus -15/4 divided by 2. And this is gonna be equal to -16/4 divided by 2. That's equal to -4/2. And that's gonna equal to -2. So what we know is that the focus and the directrix, these are gonna be horizontal. They're horizontal. And what that means that the y value stays the same. So if we know that they stay the same, therefore we can write that k is equal to -3. They have the same y coordinate. That's because the directrix is vertical. So now we have our h and our k. So now we know the vertex is -2, -3. So now our second step is we have to find p. How do we find p? So we know our focus, our x of our focus is -1/4, and our x of our vertex is -2. So we can write that again here. Focus x is -1/4, and our focus, our vertex, x is equal to -2. And since the focus is to the right of the vertex, the parabola opens right. And if it opens right, that means p is going to be positive. So that means that our distance from vertex to focus, how we can write that is just p is equal to -1/4 minus -2. That's going to equal to -1/4 plus 2. That's going to equal to 7/4. So what we can do now that we have our p, we know that the focus was to the right. So if the focus is to the right of the vertex, well, what is it? Focus is to the right of the vertex. This is the vertex here. And we know that the directrix is somewhere over here. It opens right. And we can write the equation now. So we can use the vertex form, but like manipulated, aka the focus form. So that's going to be for a horizontal parabola. So we have a horizontal parabola. So that's going to be y minus k squared is equal to 4px minus h squared. How I usually remember this is that the one that is squared is the one that the one that you're multiplying by p, that's going to have the x. And if it has the x, that means it's horizontal, and x is horizontal. So here we know that hk was equal to -2, -3, and we know that p is equal to 7/4. So then how we can write this is we have y minus -3 squared is equal to 4 times 7/4. X minus -2. We can see here that the 4's cancel out. So now what you have is y plus y plus 3 squared. And that's going to equal to 7x plus 2. So that is just going to be our answer that we got earlier. A parabola has its focus at -3/2, -1/6, and its directrix is a line y is equal to -13/6. What is the equation of the parabola? So we know that if we have the line y is equal to -13/6, that's going to be a horizontal line. So that means we know that the parabola has to open vertically. But now the question is, does it open up or does it open down? Well, we had to find the vertex, because the vertex, whichever side that the vertex lies on, it tells us which side that the parabola lies on, right? So for our vertex, we know that's going to be hk. And we know that for our vertex, this is going to be halfway between the focus and the directrix in the y direction. So this is going to be the midpoint. We can use the midpoint formula or just average, however you want to think about it. So what we do is we take -1/6. This is going to be our y, and then this was also y. So we can take the midpoint of those two y coordinates. So you have -1/6 plus -13/6 divided by 2. So that's going to be -14/6 divided by 2, and then this is going to simplify to -7/6. So then we know that the x value is going to stay the same as the focus. So then we know that what was the x-coordinate of the focus? The x-coordinate of the focus was -3/2. So that means that we can write our vertex finally as -3/2, -7/6. Now, we know that our focus was above the vertex. And we know that the directrix is below the vertex. So our vertex is here, hk. And then we know that our focus, f, our focus is -3/2, -1/6. Our vertex was -3/2, -7/6. And that means that we know our parabola has to open up. So it opens up. Parabola opens up. So when it opens up, what does that mean our p is? So when it opens up, that means our p is going to be positive. So then now we have to find the distance from vertex to focus, and we know that this is just our p value, our p that we use in our equations. So that's going to be p is equal to -1/6 minus -7/6 is equal to 1. You're using these values here. You're using this -1/6, and you're using this -7/6 to get that 1. So now we have our p. So we now have all of our components to be able to write it in our full form. Our vertex form for a vertical parabola. So this is going to be x minus h squared is equal to 4p y minus k. Now if we substitute in our values, we had a point hk. Our hk was our -3/2, -7/6. So this is going to be sub in our vertex. I want to put that in there. So what we're going to have is just x plus 3/2 is equal to 4 times y plus 7/6. And now what we can do is we can clear the fractions. Clear fractions. So we can see we have a whole bunch of fractions. We can multiply both sides by 36. So if you multiply both sides by 36, what's going to happen? So then you can rewrite this side as plus 3 over 2. This is 3 over 2 squared. So if you multiply out that 3 over 2, x plus 3 over 2 by itself, then you have 36 times x squared plus 3x plus 9 over 4. And that's going to be equal to, if you distribute this, if you distribute, actually, if we just finish simplifying this, we can just distribute these again, and you're just going to have 36x squared plus 108x plus 81. Now on the right side, we have 36 times 4 times y plus 7 over 6. So 36 times 4, that is going to be equal to, times y, we can have 144y plus 168. 36 times 7 divided times over 7 over 6. Okay, yeah. So now here we have our 144y plus 168. Now what we can do is we can arrange it into standard form. So we can move everything to one side. But first we can, yes. So if we move everything to one side, we have 36x squared plus 108x minus 144y. And we subtract our 81. We also can, over here, we subtract our 144y. So now over here we have 87, and this is going to be it. 36,108 is equal to x squared. Another way that you could have done this is that we know that xy to the okay. So what we could have also done, what we've done in the past, is that we can find the distance from xy to the focus. This distance, focus, was -3 over 2, -1 over 6. So that is x plus 3 over 2 squared, that's because it's negative, plus y plus 1 over 6 squared, that's because 1 over 6 is negative. And then we again find the distance from xy to the directrix. What was our directrix again? Our directrix was y is equal to -13 over 6. So that's our y. So that's going to be the absolute value of y plus 13 over 6. Now you can set them equal like we've done before. Setting them equal, now you can just squaring them. Okay, now if you square them, you have x, you have x plus 3 over 2 squared plus y plus 1 over 6 squared is equal to y plus 13 over 6 squared. Now if you expand, we can expand y plus 3 over 2 squared for the left. So what we have is x squared plus 3x plus 3 over 2 squared plus y squared plus 2y times 1 over 6 plus 1 over 6 squared. That's just for our left. That is going to be equal to x squared plus 3x plus 9 over 4 plus y squared plus 1 over 3 y plus 1 over 36. On the right, we have y plus 13 over 6 squared. So this is going to be y squared plus 2y times our 13 over 6. plus our 13 over 6 squared. So that's going to be y squared plus 13 over 3 times y plus 169 over 36. Now we can subtract our y squared from both sides because we see we have this and this. Now that disappears. After this, we can move everything to one side so we can get 0 onto the right. Now, what we have is we can subtract our 13 over 3 y and our 169 over 36 from both of our sides. Now we just have 0 here. So if we rewrite this, we have x squared plus 3x plus 9 over 4 plus 1 over 3 y plus 1 over 36 minus 13 over 3 times y minus 169 divided by 36, which is equal to 0. Now, if we combine our like terms, CLT combine like terms, then we see that we have 1 over 3y as one of our terms, and we have negative 13y, or negative 13 over 3y. So what this is going to result in is we have negative 12 over 3y, and that's also equal to negative 4y. Now, what else do we see? We also see a 9 over 4 and a 1 over 36. So 9 over 4 plus 1 over 36. Oh, also a negative 169 over 36. So we know that 9 over 4 is going to equal to 81 over 36 is equal to 9 over 4. So now what we can do is we can write 81 over 36 plus 1 over 36 minus 169 over 36. That's going to be equal to 82 over 36 minus 169 over 36. Now, if you subtract that, then you just get negative 87 over 36. So now we can rewrite the entire equation with our simplified constants. So what do we have? We have x squared plus 3x minus 4y minus 87 is equal to 0. So now we want to clear 87 over 36. Now we can actually clear the denominator by multiplying both sides by 36. So if we do that, then that cancels out, but we still have to multiply it by the rest of the terms. So then you have 36x squared plus 108x minus 144y minus 87 is equal to 0. So this is going to be your final equation. Or you could also write this as 36x squared plus 108x minus 144y is equal to 87. So this is the equation of a parabola with a focus at negative 3 over 2, negative 1 over 6, and directrix y is equal to negative 13 over 6. A parabola has focus at negative 1, 7 over 3, and directrix x is equal to negative 13 over 3. Write the equation in vertex form x minus h squared is equal to 4p y minus k, or y minus k squared is equal to 4p x minus h. So how do we get this answer? Well, we know that our directrix here, this is going to be a vertical line because the x value always has to be that value. So then we know that it's a vertical line, and if it's a vertical line, it's going to be like this. So that means that our parabola, it can be opening right or opening left. It has to be horizontal. So it's going to be a horizontal parabola. So if it's a horizontal parabola, then the form that we're going to use is going to be y minus k squared is equal to 4p x minus h. So that's one thing that you can already figure out right from the start. So now what you need to do is we need to find which side does our parabola lie on which side of the directrix. So what you're going to do now is you need to find the vertex. And what is the vertex? That's just going to be hk. So the vertex is going to be halfway between the focus and the directrix in the x direction in the x direction. So we know that so we're looking at the x direction. So let's go back. What is the x of each of these? The focus x is -1, and the directrix x is, there's only x, so it's -13/3. Let's write that down here. So we have our focus x is going to be -1, and that's going to equal to -3/3. And for our directrix, that's going to be x is equal to -13/3. So now we have two x coordinates. What you can do is, we know that it's halfway. So if it's halfway, that means we can use the average or the midpoint. So if you know the formula for the midpoint, it's going to look like this. So your h, or you could also consider this as your x of your vertex, but you can just write h. So then you're going to take your 2 points. You're going to take -3/3, and then you're going to add it to -13/3 and divide it by 2. So you're essentially just finding the average of these 2 points. And that's going to be, if you add those, it has the same denominator. So it's -16/3 divided by 2, and that's going to be equal to -8/3. Now, what we know is that the y value, it stays the same as the focus. It stays the same at the focus. Oh, and also for this step, let's actually write this out for you. So this is -16/3 times 1/2. So that's how you get that. So we know that the y coordinate of the vertex is the same as the focus. And that's because our directrix is vertical. So therefore, we know the y of the focus was 7/3. And that means that we know that the y of the vertex, aka k, is just going to also equal to 7/3. So now we can write that the vertex is going to be -8/3, 7/3. So now what we can do is we can find p. So what is p? P is equal to the distance from the vertex to the focus along the axis of symmetry. So what does that mean? We know that P is going to equal to x of the focus, x coordinate of the focus minus x of the vertex. Write that as x of the focus minus h. So that is going to be equal to -1 minus -8/3, which is -1 plus 8/3. You can rewrite -1 as a fraction with the same denominator. So that's -3/3 plus 8/3. So that's just going to be equal to 5/3. Now that's our p value. So now we can write the equation. Our equation, we can write this. So we know that the parabola, it opens horizontally, right? So if it's horizontal, that's because the axis is parallel to x. That means that the form that we use, horizontal, that means the 4p has to be multiplied by the x part. So that means that you have y minus k squared on the other side, and you have 4p x minus h on this side. And we know that earlier we had the h is going to be equal to the x coordinate. Coordinate of the vertex, and that's just -8/3. And we know that k is the y coordinate of the vertex. That's just going to equal to, that was equal to 7/3 of 8/3, and we know that p was equal to 5/3. Now if we plug everything in, then we know that it's going to be y minus 7/3 squared equal to 4 times 5 over 3 times x plus 8 over 3. So if you simplify that down, then you have that's equal to y minus 7 over 3 squared is equal to 20 over 3 x plus 8 over 3. And we can just leave this as this.